This is a survival story set in a Lovecraftian world. Imagine that everyone on Earth is mysteriously transported to a bizarre sea, where each person is given a ship. The ocean is filled with all sorts of eerie and monstrous creatures. To survive, you may acquire various weapons, or perhaps gain different abilities to help you stay alive. This is the 6th installment in this series. If you're interested, you can start from the first episode. Trust me, you'll experience a uniquely captivating story.
Suna, if this goes on, we'll starve to death. I'll try fishing, you keep sailing the ship. Elias Graves sent a private message. Got it, Suna replied curtly. Elias Graves shouldered the fishing rod and headed to the middle deck of the ship. He found a suitable spot and prepared to cast his line. As the saying goes, the bigger the storm, the more valuable the fish. In this case, it seemed to be the bigger the storm, the stranger the fish, or perhaps the bigger they would be. However, he greatly underestimated the difficulty of fishing in a storm. The ship rocked uncontrollably, waves crashing, and the bobber was barely visible. No sign of a catch appeared. An hour passed, and Elias Graves, aside from nearly unlocking the achievement for human baiting, had caught absolutely nothing. 2 hours later, still no results. He was growing irritable. He opened the World Chat channel and sent a message. Has anyone tried fishing? Accompanied by a photo of him fishing amidst the storm. Fishing? Are you kidding? You've got time to fish, but not to dodge debris. Indeed, only Elias Graves had the luxury to fish. Everyone else had to stay alert to avoid the floating obstacles. Wait until you catch a mermaid. I'll have you for dinner. In reality, if he caught a sea demon who would eat who was up in the air. After a flurry of excited replies, one message stood out. It seemed to be from a seasoned fisherman. The waves are too high. The fish are deep below. Your bobber is useless. If you want to fish, ditch the bobber, extend the line, and tie a heavy weight to sink it deep. Elias Graves had an epiphany and immediately adjusted his line, removing the bobber and attaching a small stone to the hook. In this world, bait wasn't necessary. Half an hour later, something tugged on the line. The fishing rod reel spun wildly. Elias Graves pulled, but a tremendous force almost yanked him off the boat. He barely managed to plant his foot against the side of the ship, preventing himself from falling into the water. He continued pulling, but the resistance stopped. What's going on? Did the line snap? Elias Graves leaned over the side and saw a red glow rising from the depths, approaching like a red lantern, about the size of a fist. What is that? He immediately became alert and drew his flintlock rifle. The next second, a shark erupted from the water, charging directly at Elias Graves, its teeth bared. It was a bullhead shark, over 1 meter long, its body a deep crimson with a smooth, streamlined shape. Its head was bizarre, flat like a spade, with 2 eyeballs hanging on either side, glowing with a sinister red light in the darkness. Even stranger, it had 2 muscular hind legs, lumpy like a toad's hindquarters. This fish is unnatural. Your sanity decreases by 5. The shark shot from the water, mouth wide open, aiming to bite Elias Graves. Thankfully, Elias Graves was prepared. He quickly dropped to the ground, narrowly avoiding the attack, and fired his flintlock. Bang! The blast shattered the shark, splitting its body, which was about the width of an adult's waist, into 2. Yet it wasn't dead. The top half continued to writhe, attempting to bite Elias Graves. Elias Graves grabbed the sea serpent's tooth and, seizing the opportunity, leaped onto the shark. Plunge! He drove the short sword into the creature twice, and only then did it stop moving. Name: double-horned devil shark. Type: food. Description: a bullhead shark tainted by the abyss, cruel and bloodthirsty. Its flesh is edible and can be used for gacha. Choose one. Use as food or for gacha. Warning: this is a pack creature. Finding one means more are likely nearby. After reading the description, Elias Graves' pupils contracted. He immediately turned his gaze to the sea. One by one, red lanterns began to flicker on the water, growing in number and converging towards the nightmare. Not a single one paused to mourn its fallen comrades. They surged out of the water, exposing their fins, seemingly intent on leaping onto the ship. The number was likely nearing 100. Suna, we're in trouble. Elias Graves ran towards the bow of the ship. Suna, sensing something was amiss, abandoned the wheel and joined him at once. Another double-horned devil shark landed on the deck. These sharks had a certain mobility on land, able to leap with their hind legs like toads, though clumsily only managing to jump 1 or 2 meters at a time. But with so many of them, resisting them was impossible. Elias Graves observed the sharks. A thought suddenly crossed his mind. Suna, we need to climb the mast. That's our only chance of survival. He had analyzed the movement of the sharks and realized they could only leap on deck and had no climbing ability. This meant if they took refuge at the mast, they would be safe. Without hesitation, they sprang into action. Elias Graves held his flintlock rifle in his left hand, and in his right, he gripped the sea serpent's tooth, prepared for both ranged and melee combat. But Suna didn't have an appropriate weapon. Using that small dagger against the sharks was far too dangerous. I have a bow in my room. I'll grab it while we run, and you can use it, Suna said. She nodded, her hair whipping wildly in the wind. Her face held no fear. Instead, there was a trace of excitement as she glanced at the sharks from time to time. I want a complete shark, especially the eyes. They must remain intact. Suna suddenly spoke. We'll talk after we survive, Elias Graves retorted. The two of them immediately started running, heading toward the right side of the ship. All the sharks had gathered on the left, so moving to the right side was relatively safer. They crouched low and moved quickly, battling the fierce wind. On the right side, the captain's cabin had no door, but Elias Graves could quickly create one using his flintlock rifle. The cooldown time seemed to have just passed. Elias Graves fired a shot, blasting a large hole just big enough for them to reach inside. He rummaged around and found the pirate longbow that had been resting in the corner, along with over 20 crude wooden arrows, each coated in venom. He handed both the bow and arrows to Suna before the two rushed to the middeck. The wind was much calmer in the middle of the ship, located between the captain's cabin and the lower hold. Most of the wind was blocked, leaving the archery largely unaffected. As they entered the middeck, a devil shark suddenly leapt from the shadowed side. Had Elias Graves not noticed in time, it likely would have knocked him to the ground. He drew the sea serpent's tooth and was about to strike, but unexpectedly, an arrow shot from behind, piercing the shark's eye. This eye seemed to be the vulnerable point for the double-horned devil shark. Once it was struck, the shark went into a frenzy, rolling on the ground, completely losing its combat effectiveness. Elias Graves turned to glance at Suna. Your archery's that good? The two of them continued running toward the mast. By now, 7 or 8 devil sharks had gathered in the middeck. They were all on the left side of the deck. As soon as they saw the two, they leapt towards them like toads. Suna displayed her remarkable skill, drawing and releasing arrows with deadly accuracy, each one striking the eye of the sharks. Despite the shark's large, glowing eyes being an obvious target, every single shot hit. It was incredible. What were you doing before this? Elias Graves swallowed hard and asked. I studied medicine. Suna paused for a moment, then added, but in high school, I won the provincial archery championship. I could have joined the national team. Why didn't you say so earlier? Elias Graves was at a loss for words. When we fought the sea demons, why didn't you use a bow? I was ambushed, and my bow fell into the sea. Ugh. Had he known how skilled Suna was, Elias Graves would have prepared more arrows. He wouldn't have feared the jumping sharks at all. But now, their supply of arrows was limited, and they couldn't afford to linger. Some of the devil sharks had even swum to the right side, preparing to flank them. New sharks kept leaping onto the deck. Fortunately, the two had already reached the base of the mast. While the new sharks were still a distance away, They had to hurry and climb to the mast. "You go first. Once you're up, cover me with your arrows." Elias Graves leaned against the mast, watching the sharks gradually approach from both sides. This was the most rational plan he had come up with. If Elias Graves climbed first, he would only have his flintlock rifle at his disposal. Although powerful, in this situation it was far less useful than a bow which could shoot multiple arrows. Suna understood immediately, wasting no time. She tucked the bow and arrows into her bag of holding and began to climb. Elias Graves gripped the sea serpent's tooth with both hands, his left holding the gun, taking up a battle-ready stance. The sharks on the left were the first to arrive, leaping toward Elias Graves. He had been observing them closely and noticed a pattern. These sharks only leapt forward. Before they jumped, they would first choose a direction, and their heads would point that way before they leapt. Using this knowledge, Elias Graves sidestepped the shark's lunge. As it passed, he struck, driving his sword straight into the shark's gill. The devil shark's momentum faltered, and a massive gash appeared across its body. When it hit the ground, its insides spilled out. It was clearly not going to survive. That's the way. Elias Graves quickly surveyed his surroundings, dodging another shark's lunge. He repeated the process, thrusting the sea serpent's tooth into the next shark's gills. In this manner, he managed to kill 3 of the sharks that had surrounded them. But Elias Graves was not a seasoned warrior. Not long ago, he had been a bedridden patient, unable even to stand. His clumsy swordplay was a result of his keen observation and calm demeanor, skills that, while useful, weren't always guaranteed to succeed. On the 4th attempt, he made a mistake. He didn't dodge quickly enough, and the shark bit into his right shoulder. The searing pain nearly caused him to faint, but Elias Graves' will was as strong as steel. He immediately pressed his flintlock rifle to the flat skull of the double-horned shark. This shot had to go off. He pulled the trigger. Click! The damn gun jammed at the most critical moment. Damn it! Elias Graves didn't give up. He quickly made a new plan, releasing the sea serpent's tooth from his right hand and switching it to his left, stabbing toward the shark. Just then, an arrow whistled through the air, brushing past Elias Graves' scalp, and struck the shark's eye. The shark let out a muffled cry of pain and released its grip, allowing Elias Graves to break free, though his right arm was now a mangled mess of blood and flesh. "Climb faster," Suna urged him, her voice sharp with urgency. She was perched on the crossbar, about 5 meters above the deck, out of reach of the sharks. She was perfectly safe. Meanwhile, she bent her bow, drawing arrows with lethal precision, providing cover for Elias Graves as he struggled to climb. "I'm running low on arrows. You'd better hurry." Elias Graves slung the flintlock rifle at his waist, gritting his teeth to endure the searing pain in his arm, and began to climb. The sharks were being picked off one by Suna's arrows, but Elias Graves was still climbing at a painfully slow pace. His legs strained with effort as his left arm and cheek pressed tightly against the mast. He pushed himself upward with all his might. "Hurry! I only have 3 arrows left." Just as Elias Graves made it 2 meters up, the grim news reached him. Soon, Suna had used up her last 3 arrows. She had no choice but to grab onto the mast with one hand and lean low, trying to help pull him up. But there was no time, the distance was too great. Just then, a shark launched itself at Elias Graves, sinking its teeth into his calf. The sickening sound of teeth grinding against bone rang in his ears. "Elias Graves!" Suna cried out in horror. Elias Graves froze, his body shuddering violently as searing pain surged through him, nausea flooding his senses. But he couldn't let go. He clenched his teeth, holding on with every ounce of will. He knew that if he let go, he would be doomed. He would certainly die. The shark hung from his leg, its razor-sharp teeth shredding his flesh. Elias Graves felt dizzy, his chest tight, his vision blurred with tears. He glanced down at the shark and saw its 2 massive crimson eyes staring back at him. Seemed to be smiling at Elias Graves' futile struggle, mocking his inevitable death. "No, you won't." Out of nowhere, A surge of raw anger erupted within Elias Graves' chest, a fiery, overwhelming rage. At the same moment, an ominous message popped up in his log. Condition met. Faced death 3/3. You have unlocked the talent, Refusal of Death. Refusal of Death. When health falls below 10 or when a fatal injury is sustained, this talent activates, preventing your health from dropping below 1. You reject death for 5 minutes. All attributes, except for mental state, are increased by +2, but mental state decreases by -2, and sanity is reduced by -50. After this, you will enter a 24-hour weakness phase where all attributes, except for mental state, are decreased by -2. During this phase, Refusal of Death no longer takes effect. Your sanity is below 50, entering a state of madness, immune to most negative mental conditions. Strength +2, Agility +1, Constitution +1, Mental -2. You are immune to pain, tireless, and fearless until sanity is restored. With the dual buffs, Elias Graves' strength surged to an astonishing 8 points, but his mental state plummeted to 4. His eyes reddened, veins bulging as his body convulsed with rage. His right arm, which had previously hung limp, suddenly regained strength, and he gripped the mast tightly. His left hand shot down, reaching for the shark's glowing eyes below. With a savage grip, he crushed the eyeball, causing it to burst in a spray of fluid. With monstrous strength, Elias Graves tore the shark's eye out, using it as a weapon to bludgeon another shark. Now, with a strength of 8, Elias Graves could easily smash the shark's skull with a fist. But Elias Graves wasn't a reckless brute. He knew better than to engage in a brawl if he could avoid it, at least not now. His right arm flexed, and with a graceful leap, he shot up to the crossbar, lighter than a monkey. From now on, it's my turn. Elias Graves' expression was grim, the dark muzzle of his gun aimed at the devil shark below. Bang! The devil shark was cleaved into 2. What happened? Suna asked incredulously, her eyes wide as she looked at Elias Graves. Just a moment ago, he had been on the brink of death, and now, he had reversed the situation in an instant, landing a fatal blow. It was strange. Suna's gaze on Elias Graves grew intense, almost ravenous, as if she wanted to swallow him whole and dissect him down to his core. Her gaze was so blatant that Elias Graves felt an uncomfortable shiver. He casually brushed it off. Nothing. I unlocked a new talent. I see, Suna replied, not pressing any further. Even if she had, Elias Graves wouldn't have revealed the truth. This was his trump card, immensely powerful and capable of turning the tide in a critical moment. But there was a deadly side effect to the talent, an exhausting 24-hour weakness period. The fewer who knew about it, the better. On the other side, Suna was also a bit shaken. Her sanity had dropped by more than 20 points just now, and she'd almost given in to the urge to dissect Elias Graves with her dagger. Fortunately, she had managed to restrain herself, her sanity hovering just above 50. Suna, don't rush, control yourself. Elias Graves is special. I need to observe him more carefully, she silently admonished herself. Elias Graves, of course, had no idea what this mad woman was thinking. He took out some holy water, drank 2/3 of it, and poured the remaining third over his wound. The effect was immediate, the bleeding quickly stopped. He then drew his flintlock rifle, aimed, fired, and missed. The second shot was accurate, killing another shark. The sharks, frustrated at being unable to reach the 2 of them, began to grow frantic. Some began gnawing on the mast, while others started feasting on their fallen comrades. The mast was the sturdiest part of the ghost ship, thick and solid, and the sharks' mouths couldn't destroy it in a short period. But the danger was still present. It would be a race. Would the mast break first, or would these sharks perish? With only around 30 sharks left uninjured, Elias Graves felt confident in his chances. Wait, no need to shoot anymore. Suna suddenly stopped him. Why? Elias Graves turned to look at her. Look, the pufferfish cyst toxin is starting to take effect. She pointed to one of the sharks that had been shot in the eye. This shark, likely the first to be struck by an arrow, was now lying on the deck, its body contorted, motionless. Soon, its carcass was being devoured by its kin. Elias Graves instantly understood. Cannibalism, a common phenomenon among insects. That's why some insecticides are designed to delay death, allowing the insects to return to their nests before they die. This results in the entire nest being wiped out. Suna explained. I see. Elias Graves nodded and squeezed the trigger, shooting another shark. But if I shoot, wouldn't that speed up their deaths? After all, bullets cost nothing. Do as you wish. Just leave me one complete one, Suna replied. Minutes later, all the sharks were dead. Not a single one left. The deck was littered with shark corpses, soaked in blood and thick with the stench of decay. Elias Graves, still in a weakened state, took a long time to climb the mast. His health was down to just 15, and he had to tread carefully. One wrong move, a fall even, and he could easily slip into the brink of death, followed by a quick demise. Suna had already come down. She had her eyes set on the largest and most intact devil shark corpse, and she began cutting it up on the spot, preparing to store the pieces in her bag of holding. I'm going to get rich. Elias Graves' eyes gleamed with excitement. Back in his mobile game days, he loved nothing more than the gacha pulls. In many games, he'd pull once and then delete the app. We split it half and half? Elias Graves asked, looking at Suna. You go ahead and pull. I only need one, Suna responded indifferently, seemingly uninterested in the gacha. That's such a waste. Well, I'll reluctantly take one for the team and pull for you. Elias Graves couldn't wait and began slicing the devil shark corpse into chunks. Cut one batch, pull one batch, and soon the bodies were vanishing. Altogether, he performed 72 gacha pulls. There were 74 devil sharks in total. One had been dismembered by Suna, and one was kept as reserve food. To avoid poisoning from any contaminated flesh, Elias Graves had carefully selected the one that had been cut in half at the start. Luckily, this shark hadn't been devoured by its kin, making it perfect for food. After handling all the carcasses, Elias Graves double-checked the course and the map. Once he confirmed everything was fine, he turned his attention back to the gacha machine below. There were 72 glowing orbs displayed. He hadn't opened any yet, planning to open them all at once. What would he get? Elias Graves was eagerly anticipating and began to pull the gacha. You have received 1 unit of steel. What? You have received 200 conch coins. You have received 5 units of wood. You have received 5 units of stone. Damn it! Elias Graves slammed the wood against the deck. It slowly disappeared, transferred to the warehouse. Was he lacking these items? What about relics? Treasure? At the very least, some accessories? By the end of it, Elias Graves felt numb, his expectations dashed. Most of the pulls were basic resources like fresh water, steel, wood, cloth, and even some crystals. There were also 12 black breads, 5 sausages, and 3 watermelons. Maybe the devil shark was too weak compared to the sea witches or drowned ones. Or perhaps it was just terrible luck. Once all the pulls were done, Elias Graves only got 3 decent items. 1 was a high-quality item, 1 good-quality item, and 1 common-quality item. Name: low-tier fire element. Type: consumable/material. Quality: premium. Description: can be attached to corrupted gear to imbue the power of fire. P.S. Equipment can be repeatedly corrupted, with the last corruption being the final property. Name: glowing red fishing net. Type: tool. Quality: good. Description: can be placed on the side of the ship to capture any unfortunate fish that pass by. However, this net emits an unsettling red glow, causing normal fish to avoid it at all costs. That red glow, you should have seen it before. Name: sharkskin swimsuit. Type: treasure. Quality: common. Description: increases swimming speed by 25% and reduces stamina consumption while swimming. It will make you the champion of any swimming race. Elias Graves stored these 3 items away. The ghastly drop rate made him think of some rather unpleasant memories. But soon, a thought began to fester in his mind. Could it be that when you submit the same type of monster too many times, the drop rate decreases drastically? The more he thought about it, the more convinced he became. Perhaps the system was trying to encourage players to hunt unfamiliar monsters. Testing this hypothesis was easy. Just have someone else try the gacha and see what happens. Without hesitation, he went to work. Elias Graves pulled Suna, still in the middle deck, over to him, handing her a fish fin to try her luck with the gacha. This devil shark had originally been saved for food, but with plenty of black bread around, there was no need to risk eating raw meat. Try it, Elias Graves urged. If Suna got an item, it would confirm that his theory was correct. Repeatedly submitting the same monster's corpse would cause the drop rate to plummet. But if Suna didn't get anything, it would just be a matter of luck, and he'd chalk up his earlier good fortune to random chance. Suna tossed the fish fin into the gacha and turned the wheel. Suddenly, the octopus head's eyes shot out golden light, and even its tentacles turned a shimmering gold. Wow, a golden legendary. Elias Graves thought he was hearing things. A golden orb emerged from the octopus's mouth and was promptly picked up by Suna. Is this the difference between the lucky players and the unlucky ones? Elias Graves' face flushed with frustration, for the first time feeling that the game was unfair, filled with malice. Suna picked up the glowing orb, her eyes brightened, and she placed it into her bag of holding. What did you get? Elias Graves asked, leaning in with curiosity. Want to know? Beg me, and I'll tell you, Suna replied, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth, her eyes squinting like crescent moons. Forget it. Elias Graves didn't indulge her, nor did he feel any envy. After all, he had 3 treasures. Though not golden, his quantity far surpassed hers. At the same time, his mind swirled with arcane theories. Could it be that the devil shark that died the earliest had the best drop rate? He couldn't dismiss that possibility, but the truth of the matter could only be determined with more trials in the future. What was certain was that submitting the same type of monster's corpse repeatedly would drastically lower the drop rate. Elias Graves handed the helm back to Suna and began cleaning up the battlefield. Elias Graves couldn't help but marvel at how convenient the monster gacha machine was. The shark carcasses and their blood would be automatically recycled. But the damage to the deck and mast, not to mention the large hole in the captain's quarters, would require materials to repair. During the battle, they had also collided with a few floating objects, leaving the ship hull damaged. Just the repairs alone had consumed 40 units of wood. Thankfully, the gacha machine had also yielded some resources. The current food and resources available were as follows. Food: 12 black bread, 5 sausages, 8 L of fresh water, 67 vitality coconuts, 3 watermelons. Suna's cabin still had over 40 vitality coconuts. Resources: 55 wood, 45 cloth, 32 stone, 10 steel, 8 crystals, 6 sulfur, seashell coins, 2050. Steel, crystals, and sulfur seemed to be advanced resources, and the conversion rate in the gacha was 5:1. Food was no longer a concern for now. Unless they were completely out of options, Elias Graves wouldn't fish in the stormy sea again. He opened the World Channel and started posting a message. Better not fish in the stormy sea, you'll catch monsters.